Hey supporters of New City Church, it's Patrick Thompson here in New York City, and I want to take some time today to give you an update on what's been happening in the life of our church this year, as well as kind of give you an update on where we're heading in the future. 6 years ago this January, our family moved to New York City to do life and ministry here, and it has been quite a roller coaster ride. Our church started with our family of four in our apartment, and we quickly grew to a core team that began to meet over our first year here, and it's been amazing to see how God took that family and that core team to now this year. We're having 120 people on a regular Sunday come to worship with us at New City Church. It's been amazing to watch this. Many of them are young families with children that are coming, and we're seeing people from all different ethnic backgrounds, spiritual backgrounds, people that are searching to understand who Christ is. We're so grateful that God is sending those people to us every week to share the gospel with. One of the other great things we get to do every year is our community carnival. Because of partnerships with churches and individuals that come and serve with us over the first weekend in October, we're able to connect with over 3,000 people in our neighborhood. This year we had 150 families say that they wanted more information about the church, and we've been following up with them. This is the #1 outreach event we do every year. It's the 5th year of doing it, and God continues to grow this and use it to bless our neighborhood and our church. But it's not just events like this. One of the things we're most excited about is changed lives. Over our 6 years here, we've seen dozens of baptisms. Even more people surrender their heart to Christ, become be a part of His church, experience the grace and peace of Jesus, and start to live out their calling in many different ways. God has been so faithful in the first chapter of our life here to establish a church because of the faithfulness of so many that have been a part of our journey here through financial support and through prayer support, and even through coming and visiting with us. What I want to spend the rest of my time in this update is talking about where we feel like God's leading us into the future. We're not a complete church. We're not done. We're still growing. There's still pieces of us that need to come into full form. But God's calling us to do something else, and that's to multiply. To take what we have and try to multiply it into other churches, multiply it into other locations in the city that don't have churches. And I think He's really given us a vision on how to do that. And I want to share that vision with you, and I want to ask you to prayerfully consider how you might come along and be part of that. Every church multiplies different ways. I know churches that start campuses or send out guys to start in totally different places or support churches financially down the street. One of the ways that God has called us as a church to multiply is to be a place of what we call incubation. What we're saying is this: we want to be a place to launch healthy and vibrant autonomous churches and from different locations and different languages. New York City is filled with specific needs all around us. 800 different languages are spoken in this city every day, and we need people that are called to those language groups to go and meet those. We've got locations in this city, whole neighborhoods who don't have gospel preaching churches, and we need men and teams who will come into this city and say, I've got a passion for that neighborhood, and we'll go and launch out into that. And so we do this kind of with a three-pronged strategy. The first is we want to give people a place to land. One of the hardest things in this city is moving to the city, figuring out what's going on, figuring out church, what it's all about. And so we want our church to be a place that potential church planters and teams can come and land for a season. And while they land here and can feel like they're a part of a church, they can begin to learn and figure out what it is to church plant in the city, to get past some of the culture shock, to get over the hump in some areas, to learn from those that have been there and to make connections with others that they can learn with. And then after they learn, we really want to give them a chance to launch, to go out and accomplish the vision that God has for them. It may not line up exactly with our vision for the city, but we don't need just a bunch of New City churches. We need people with unique visions, unique passions that can go out. But part of our multiplication strategy is we want to be a place where people can land, learn, and then launch. The city needs that, and we need partners that will say, hey, we want to get behind New City, making sure that their campus, where they are at now, is a place that people can come and incubate and land, learn, and then launch. The amazing thing is this: God has already done this. He's already sent us a couple of pastors and teams to do this. Pastor David heads up our Korean ministry. We sent him through the North American Mission Board Church Planning Assessment 2 years ago, and he's leading out in the congregation now. This past August, we sent Michael and Shannon Hill through assessment, and this coming January, we're sending them out with a team of people to plant a local autonomous church a little farther out in Queens. So God's already allowing us to do this, but we want to expand that opportunity. But we've got a bigger vision than just being a place of incubation. The other thing we want to be is a place of multiplication. To multiply, launch additional worship gatherings in strategic areas of Manhattan where we can maximize our reach and our resources. You might not know this, but we have, as the North American Mission Board and as the Southern Baptist Convention, we have not started a church that has maintained its presence south of Central Park in Manhattan in almost 12 years. And that's a sad thing to say, but it's not from a lack of trying. It's a difficult place to do ministry. And we believe because of our model and our strategy, we may be uniquely positioned to help overcome some of those barriers. And there are really two primary barriers that we see to church planting in the heart of the city in Manhattan. And the first one is this: time. I mean, you think about it, it took us 6 years to get to a functioning church. And you talk about Manhattan, it may even take longer than that. There's all kinds of things that you have to come up with. You have to relocate to the city. You have to overcome unforeseen obstacles, deal with culture shock when you get here, develop new relationships in the city, build a core team, oversee more unforeseen circumstances, figure out how to use mission teams, find a place to meet, train leaders for your launch, overcome unforeseen circumstances, build administrative systems, refine your strategy, grow groups and giving, figure out how to multiply, and then overcome some more unforeseen obstacles. The truth is, time is a barrier. Sometimes people don't last that long in the city, or they grow frustrated along the way, or their giftedness doesn't allow them to get over some of those hurdles. And so we want to be a place, we've gotten through this process. And so we feel like we can get over that hurdle. But there's a second big hurdle, and that hurdle is money. It takes a lot of money to plant a church in New York City, specifically in Manhattan. You gotta have things for relocation costs, you gotta have money for salary for a church planner, you pay all these administrative fees that you have to do. You have to pay for your facilities to meet in, have office in, equipment, and then you have to pay for unexpected expenses. You might not believe this, but it can take over $1 million to plant a church in New York City. And that number may even be on the low end. And so here's what we want to do. We want to take what we've learned with our money and our resources, with the barriers of getting through time, and we want to take and multiply that. And here's how we want to do that. God has done an amazing thing by planting a church here in Long Island City, Queens, just right across from Midtown Manhattan. And we want to take our resources, what God has blessed us with, the way that the lessons that He's taught us, and instead of starting new churches everywhere around the city, we simply want to replicate our worship gathering. And when we do that, we'll be replicating communities without having to hire an additional church planner, without having to go through the time of establishing whole brand new people into the city. We're shortcutting those processes. And our goal is to do this in multiple locations in Manhattan. We've got opportunities to do a Midtown Fellowship. We're going to be partnering with David Kim, our Korean Fellowship, to do a language in Midtown along with an English-speaking service. And God's really opening some doors downtown as well. These aren't campuses. These aren't brand new churches. They're simply a replication of our worship gathering in these locations. So here's the deal. Let's say we try downtown and it doesn't work. That's all right. We're still here. We may just try in a different location. We're not going to lose the resources or the time that it took to get this whole thing established. And here's the amazing thing. When we do this, our barriers become our friends. Time squeezes down. We've already done every bit of this. And now we can begin to start planting churches and these services at a faster pace than we ever did before. We're building off of our bank of time to get things going faster. And we're ready to do a few of these opportunities. In downtown and in Midtown, we're seeing doors open just to go and try to do a worship gathering. The second thing we're seeing is this, the barrier of money and all of these resources that went into it. When we're looking at what it's going to cost to just replicate a service into the city, we're seeing this. That brings the cost way down. Typically, we're seeing an estimated 1/3 cost of a typical startup cost. We can actually do 3 of these for less than what we've been able to try to do one church plant in Manhattan. So here's what I want to ask you to do. Would you consider partnering with us? We've got to have partners to do this. We couldn't be where we are today without partners. And so there's 3 ways I want to ask you to consider partnering. The first is by far the most important. Would you sustain us through prayer? Would you commit to praying for our family, for our leadership team, for our congregation, for this city? Would you regularly make us a part of your prayer strategy? Maybe that's your personal prayer time. Maybe it's a group prayer time that you're part of. Maybe it's even your church prayer time. But would you do that? It sustains us. I get prayer cards all the time. I get phone calls, emails, texts of people saying that they were praying for me. And many times those prayers come at very key times in my life or in our ministry. And so we need people to sustain us. The second thing is we need people to help us make an immediate impact. And you can make an impact by making a one-time financial gift to our ministry. These gifts aren't paying exactly for what we're doing in Long Island City anymore, but they're going to help us multiply out. They're going to help us grow what we're doing. They help continue to provide for some of our personal needs, but it allows us to multiply our efforts. So would you consider making an impact by giving a one-time gift? And then would you also consider maybe being an anchor, something that allows us to stay in this city for the next chapter of ministry here by saying, hey, I'll make a monthly commitment to your ministry and to the work there in New York City. These monthly gifts literally allow us to anchor our lives and our ministry here in New York City. If you're interested in doing that, you can go to our website, new-citychurch.com/give. If you go on there, in this email as well, there'll be links to how you can give, how you can sign up to be a prayer partner. And I want to encourage you, if you know somebody else who would be interested in learning about what we're doing and how we're doing ministry in New York City, feel free to forward this to them as well. I can't say enough of how much gratitude I have in my heart for the hundreds of people, dozens of churches that have poured into us over this 6 years. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude because we wouldn't be here, New City Church wouldn't be here without the partnership of people like you. And so I want to ask you to prayerfully consider helping us write the next chapter as well as we look to multiply, to establish work for God in this city in places where there is no work going on currently. Thanks so much for taking some time to watch this. Thanks so much for your prayers and support. Please reach out to me if you have any other questions or concerns. Again, thanks. Have a great day.